This is TJ Demonte with us. So he auditioned for the band back in 98.
90,
Uh,
excuse me, I'm sorry, 99.
99. Okay. It was
99.
so you were one of the very first ones that auditioned, right?
I I mean, people might say something different,
Mm-hmm.
but if I get into the details of the story, I would say I was the absolute first. And the reason I say that is because Aaron Lewis from Stained, the band Stained, called me. They were doing post-production work on their first album. They met the guys from Linkin Park in the studio and said, "We just lost our singer. We're looking for a singer." And based on the way Stained told us, they were going to do a solid for us because of the way they got signed, he immediately gave me a call. And without getting into too much detail at this point, but yeah, I believe I was the first.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So let's talk about your beginnings. Like, how did you start making music?
Yeah, I mean, just like everybody else. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I was just into music. Band, high school, stuff like that. Like you pick up an instrument, then you try another one. Anything that kind of that made a tune. I was always drawn to music ever since I was a kid. At a very early age, you cassette recorded the whole thing. But didn't really start with like rock band music until latter half high school, talent shows, and then right out of high school started playing clubs. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So,
Yep.
what kind of music do you listen to, like, in your personal time?
And, it's like the cliche answer, right? I mean, it's everybody's like, oh, I listen to everything, and I truly do. I listen for like singers because that's how I learned to sing,
Mm-hmm.
by almost mimicking and listening to vowel sounds and the phonetics of singers, and just anything with a good melody, whether it's pop or rock or anything. But you got to be careful because anything that goes in that resonates with you comes back out also.
Mm-hmm.
You digest it, and then there's some type of emulative, regurgitation that comes out in the next part. So yeah, I gotta be careful, but yeah, I listen to everything.
Okay, that's cool. In 92, you joined Echelon, a
Yep.
band from metal and hardcore scene built around the sports palace in New Britain. Was
Yeah.
it your first band?
No, it's real. It's funny. I had a couple like, uh, I was trying to find my place. I tried to join one band and I sang with them and it felt good, but it wasn't really like I was trying to find my voice. And then there was another band I couldn't find. It worked, but it didn't feel right. And then oddly enough, I played with 2/5 of the members of what would become Weezer. They're a band called Avant Garde from Marlborough, Connecticut. Eric Rydell and Bryn Much. We played kind of like pop rock for the time. And then, Echelon was, after that kind of fizzled out, Echelon was probably my first working band. And I owe them a big credit because that was like my first band where it was like rehearsal 3 times a week, 2 gigs a week, or more, 3 gigs a week, rehearsal 2 times a week. And I owe them, Scott and Harry and all the guys in that band, really a lot because they taught me how to be a professional musician because I was still
Very
pretty young
cool.
at that point. Yeah.
You also put out an EP with them, a 3-track EP, and
Yeah.
you got an award for that.
Yeah.
For best of the band's bush. What was the award for?
It's I don't know if most people should relate to that. Like if you get into the artsy section of town, there used to be a paper that would sit there and it'd be like, hey, if you needed a musician or you're looking for a singer or you're looking for a bass player or you wanted to go to art gallery, there was this really cool like bohemian art rag, and they would hold like a talent search every year. We actually won that in Echelon. I also won that in Sugarmilk a couple years later.
Oh, that's pretty
For
cool.
Yeah, for the I'm very, and that's more of a statement for the whole unit, the whole band. I was very fortunate to be a part of that. It felt good, and just helped build our fan base.
Why don't you think always put down, put to shame?
when you were young, it was like the go-to place if you were looking for new talent there?
Yeah, well, yeah, we were really fortunate. We all ran together like in a circle of. There was a lot of musicians that ran together, and then later on, as we'll get into, Massachusetts kind of annexed onto that. So then we had this really cool pool of musicians. And now when we look back after I'm telling this story, as crazy as it sounds, you say, wow, there's some really talented people. And to looking left to the right of me, they're just my friends. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, they're going here. It was amazing,
So you mentioned them before, but like after Echelon, you joined Crumb, which renamed Sugarmilk, right?
Yeah, but Crumb was like the Judgment Night soundtrack had come out, and we were like, I thought that was the best thing since sliced. I just loved that album so much, and how they did it like organically, not like some of the fake rock metal bands came, like Pearl Jam and Cypress Hill was still one of the greatest songs, and Booyah Tribe and Faith No More and all that stuff. So during that era, it was just something new. So Crumb was totally an emulation of that record, and then kind of then some, coming from our hardcore roots. But I was really primarily a singer before that, so that helped me develop my scream voice a little bit more. And if you like listen on my SoundCloud, it's like, yeah, I was full on screaming. Like, I mean, I was pretty much Cookie Monster voice then. So, but yeah. So Crumb became Sugarmilk because there was another. It was either the artist, some guy Crumb, his last name Crumb, or another band that held the copyright to that. So we had to change our name to Sugarmilk.
According to the Facebook biography, the band thought harder rap crossover, as you said now, would not last and opted out of the genre. What made the band come to this conclusion?
One more time on the last part of that. Sorry, it broke up.
What made the band come to this conclusion?
Well, after a while, you could see like everybody wasn't Korn. Everybody wasn't the Deftones. Everybody wasn't, at that time, Limp Bizkit hadn't even popped, but because we ended up opening up for them as Sugarmilk. But it was right during that era, and everything was just like so saturated, so cookie cutter, so like the whatever dazzle that music had started to lose it, and you could see that it was like a candle that was going to burn brightly and then be gone. So I kind of felt like, let's get back to like writing songs that have a little more shelf life to them, or at least try to. I mean, that was the aim. So.
Do you think this genre still has a place today in today's music scene?
I think if done right, I mean, everybody hates it, and they name it new metal, and sometimes bands that don't belong get lumped into that, like Deftones. Deftones are not new metal. You know what I mean? They've transcended that, and they found their own place. Linkin Park gets lumped into that in some ways, and that's not accurate. They transcended their original style, which was great. And they went on to start finding their voice in different veins of music, and which was also great. So, but as far as that genre, I still like I just said, I'd still listen to many songs if they're done right. If there's real emotion and it's not just someone faking it, right? Well, it even has crossed over into if we have listeners that listen to grindcore, deathcore, anything like that, some of those riffs and some of those bounce beats and all of that stuff is if you didn't have that kicked the door open for some of those elements to be put into that music, so that it was an evolution. So it wasn't all like, the people that kind of sit back all snobby writing reviews of this terrible music, they don't realize that maybe, or that's part of some of the genres they like, just because someone slapped a stigma to it. A lot of that stuff has merit to this day. So
after the band changed the name to Sugarmilk, you put out three three tracks included in the Six of the City's Loudest compilation.
Yep. Six of Connecticut's Loudest. Yep.
That's also on your SoundCloud, right? You got those tracks?
Yeah, there's a few tracks there. The ones I like.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's a couple there. Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Were there any other releases with Crumb or Sugarmilk?
Most of the good songs from, and this is my own filter, the songs I thought were pretty good from Crumb are on my SoundCloud. The songs I thought from Sugarmilk that I thought were pretty good are there as well. Yeah. So, but you know, as we get to the next evolution, then I'll explain some other stuff that was there. So
okay. So you guys played successful shows around New England, Boston, and New York City.
Yeah.
And regular shows in the toxic-filled Mice and Stein. The band's biography says lineup changes eventually killed the band. Would you say that is accurate?
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting? One of our guitarists is a PhD in physics. To this day, he's got tenure. His name's Dr. Stephen Cronin. So it's always like a laugh. Like, it's like, hey, if this music thing doesn't work out, what are you gonna do? He'd already worked at Los Alamos, New Mexico. He had already been out to like USC and doing all these projects. I believe he was published before we were even not a band, and he got his degree at MIT with a 3.8 or 3.9 GPA while rehearsing and playing with the band.
Yeah.
I mean, the kid or the guy now is an absolute machine and an amazing guitarist and a great friend. So that was one piece at that time. And then we would come back together in No December, but we'll talk about that.
Okay. So you had the famous show with Stained and Limp Bizkit while on Sugarmilk.
Yeah.
According to Wikipedia, Stained acquired a concert slot through Aaron's cousin Justin Cantor.
Yeah.
We have told this is in fact wrong. Can you explain how Stained actually got in the bill?
Yeah. Stained and I, if I, you know, just to give some context to that, we met Aaron. Aaron was the same person, like if you like Aaron Lewis and, you know, and love his voice, and he's got an amazing voice. We met him sitting on a stool playing an acoustic guitar just like he does today up at a little club in Western Massachusetts called Infinity, the Infinity. And we also met our recording engineer, Jeff Gilmer at the Rock Shop, another amazing guy. So, and Aaron was recording these tunes, and this band that was kind of like an Alice in Chains, Tool cover band. They were playing all these songs. They got together and they formed Stained, and they slowly dropped off the covers, and just the rest is history. So, but we kind of saw them through that progression. We worked with them, and they just really started amassing a crowd because Aaron's a great singer. He's a great showman, a great frontman. So we got really close and tight. We played a lot of shows together. Aaron would come up and sing backups to some of our Crumb songs, and I'd go, you know, we would share, and we would do like the 2-person mic thing. And you're talking, this is 1994, 95, doing the 2-singer thing periodically. I would love to get a video of that if someone had that. It would be so great. I haven't found it yet. So, but so we would tour around in that little area, and we'd do a bunch of good shows. But as far as getting the gig was concerned, we had a manager at the time, and we had played CBGBs. We had played some of these big clubs, the Middle East, all around, and we had opened for Typo Negative. We had opened for Anthrax. We had opened for, geez, I'm trying to think back then who else we opened for besides Limp Bizkit. So anyways, we get that night of the Limp Bizkit show, a band falls off. And it's literally like load in times 8 o'clock. And our manager calls, says, hey, can you get a band to come out here? So we said, let's call the guys in Stained, because we were that close with them. We play every weekend with them somewhere. And my drummer and I, got on a three-way call, and we called him up. I tried Aaron, and he tried Mike Mushak, and then we finally got a hold of him, and they said, "Hell yeah, we'll play. We'll be there. We'll be there in X amount of time," because that place was sold at I don't know, 1,200's capacity, and it was pretty much sold out. It doesn't sound like much here, but it was a lot for then, you know. And yeah, so I don't know where that cousin thing came from, and it's not me being indignant about, you know, I don't want someone else to get credit for that. That's probably just one of those Wikipedia things. But if you look at their, I have some of their old bio, and it clearly will say that our friends in Sugarmilk helped get us signed. And it really is important to this piece of the story, because not like it, they're just good guys and good people. So it's not like they were felt indebted, but because of that night, it's famous. Fred Durst came up and looked at their record artwork and was like, "I want these guys off the label, off the show, because the artwork looked satanic and it looked crazy." And they were the furthest thing from that. They just did that to be sensational, I suppose. And it wasn't even that bad. It just looked weird. It looked odd, right? So consequently, because we had to convince him, I remember being in a circle. It was Fred Durst, Aaron standing here, my drummer standing here. We're going, no. We're trying to convince him, you know, please let them play. They drove all the way down from Mass. They're not satanic. It's just a thing. But what ended up happening was he watched them because of it. He wanted to see if we lied to him. He wanted to see if they did anything shady. He wanted to see if they started singing lyrics that he didn't feel were appropriate. So he stood side stage, arms folded, and really just keened in on it. And you could see just like that disappear, and kind of like the bell went off, like, this guy, you know, these guys are good. You know, specifically keying in to Aaron and Mike and the crew and Johnny April, the whole front end, you know. So he didn't leave the side stage practically for the whole show. It was till it was time for them to start getting ready. So I think that's what put the bug in his ear to start. I know that's what started their relationship, and the rest is history there.
That's probably the craziest way to get signed, honestly. Pretty crazy story.
Yeah. He's like, I want to hate you. I think you're satanic, and I'm going to watch you to make sure you're not satanic. So, and because he did that, he said, "Hey, as I remember, why don't you come up to the show in Massachusetts tomorrow? We'll have passes for you, and let's talk." So that's how it went.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and that is, I you know, I'd love to if Aaron ever were to tell that story. I'm sure I'm darn close. It was right there. You know what I mean? Memory is the worst thing in the world, right? They'll say witness accounts is the worst, but I'm pretty certain of that part. That's pretty lined up. So
a review of the show states that there were many technical difficulties, though. What happened exactly?
What do you mean?
There's a review of the show that states many technical problems have been enduring.
Oh, that was I did some. There was some bad stuff with the monitors, and then I did some bad stuff. So like I wasn't getting a monitor mix, so I just threw my microphone right into the horn, so that it did full feedback to the whole audience, and I just didn't take my microphone out until they fixed the monitor mix, which wasn't exactly cool or probably the right thing to do at the time. But it's like, it's a major show, and they had major full house sound. That wasn't one of the only things that had happened, but there were some sound issues, and you know, that room is a very echoey, boomy room, and it just didn't, even with all those people in it, it's still, the sound could have been better. So yeah.
Okay, so another interesting note about you in the review is TJ Demonte's impression of Cartman from the Comedy Central cartoon series South Park. There's also a funny thing that Mike Shinoda once mentioned. There was a singer who auditioned for the band that also did stand-up routines. Is it you? Is it the same?
I don't do stand up, but what that night, the night was great. We played well, even though I wasn't, I didn't think it was my best show or whatever. Hindsight's always 20/20. But South Park had just really popped. I had the original George Clooney tape that got passed around with the Brian Boitano skit on it. But the first episodes of the real South Park, like on Comedy Central, had just gotten like really, really big. So I just broke in because everybody was doing it. So I just broke into that, and I had a decent one at the time, and it had the crowd rolling. I mean, it really did. And the reviewer hated us. The reviewer hated Limp Bizkit. They hated Stain, hated Cold. I'm sorry. He didn't like anybody, but he said I was entertaining, and he said, but then he gave me a backstab. He said with a voice not unlike his own. And that review is still online. If you search my name, second page on Google, it's the craziest thing. I don't know why it's still there. That review, it says Limp Bizkit strums mostly anger, Hartford Current, 19, whatever. It's still there. So what a crazy night, right?
Yeah, that's great. So it was like a one-time thing, the stand-up comedy part?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, when you're a front man, or when you're playing, right, there's always downtime or an opportunity to kind of pull the crowd in, especially when you're playing originals and it's the first time anybody's ever heard those originals. So you kind of have to win over their minds and attention to get them to listen to a song they've never listened to before. Yes, the song can grab them, but it's very rare that like the very first time out of the gate, someone's going to love that tune. It's the problem with playing originals to a brand new crowd every time. But it's I've never been in a cover band, so you get used to it. So you kind of tell a story or two, or just relate to the crowd.
So let's move on your audition for Xero.
Yeah.
What was Aaron Lewis' role in getting your audition? And
so,
did he know the band members personally back then, or how did the whole thing happen?
There's a little bit to that, and here's how it gets crazy. So behind closed doors, Aaron would say to me afterwards, because we were close. We weren't close, like we didn't go out to dinner every weekend. We didn't, like go over each other's house, but we were close. When we would show up at the club together, we would hang out, and I'd say, hey, you have a great set. We talk about the week's worth of stuff. How was your work week? Or, you got any good tunes, or what are you into? Whatever the case may be. So we were partners in that trip through the club situation, right? And we were close in that regard. So he said after they knew they were going to get a deal, he's like, I promise you, I'm going to do everything I can to take care of you guys, see what we can't do to return the favor. And I was like, hey, listen, I understand that's like lightning in a bottle. I don't expect anything. If you can, you can. And if you can't, that's certainly fine too. So we didn't hear much. And the time would go by. I want to say, so that was probably the fall of 98 when that show happened, I believe. And I want to say April, May, June-ish. I don't remember the exact date. They were going out. Fred Durst had decided to take them out on the second Family Values tour. Okay. So he had already booked time up in wherever they were recording in Hollywood or Los Angeles. I want to say it was Pearl Jam, or studios that Pearl Jam had just gotten out of at the time. And Aaron called me one day, and he's like, you're not going to believe this, dude. You got to sit down. Check this out. So this band that's got financial backing and an A&R guy with them just lost their singer. You're a perfect fit with what you've been through, like the music you've done, what I'm hearing, and whatever. I'm going to slide your name to him, so expect a phone call. This guy's name is Jeff Blue, and the other guy's name is Mike. Just expect a phone call and go from there. And do this is the real deal. Do your best.
Aaron's gonna help us this out over here. Are you guys ready? Alright, Michelle, you keep them amps right here. I'm gonna go make sure you guys are alright right here. Shut up when I'm talking to you! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up when I'm talking to you! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! I'm about to break everything you say to me. Take one step closer to the edge, and I'm about to break. I'm in a room to break, 'cause I'm one step closer to the edge, and I'm about to break everything you say to me. Take one step closer to the edge, and I'm about to break. I'm in a room to break, 'cause I'm one step closer to the edge, and I'm about to break.
So, okay, fine. So I'm excited, but tempered, right? Because these things it doesn't mean anything. I mean, it means something, certainly, like, because Stain had done very well with Outside on that Family Values tour. So they had a really good name. So the A&R guys listening to Aaron, because he's clearly talented. So it's like the day or the day before they're headed off to the Family Values tour. And he said, I have a tape for you. They had just gotten back. I have a tape for you. And that was the tape with Mark's vocals on it. And I'm going to try to put my hands on it. I know we had talked earlier. I have a box that's like this, but I have to listen. There we go. It's in frame. It's like this of cassette tapes I have to literally listen to real time to find it, because it somehow got mislabeled. Whereas this other tape was labeled from the get-go, and it stayed. I mean, we're talking about 20 years. So the day before they leave, I go to Aaron's house. It's in West Springfield. He's on the third walk up, and I'll never forget it. He's with his wife, and he's like, here's this tape. So I put it, thanks a lot. Have a great trip. Hope the shows are great. Thanks for the recommendation. I'll do my best. We'll figure it out. So, yeah, so that's how the first part kind of cinches together. And I'm listening to it on the way home, and I'm like, wow, this is different. And at the time, if I could go into this, at the time, it was very rap-centric, and the singer portion was very much like just the refrain or just the chorus, barely the chorus, like you would hear in a normal rap tune, kind of like in, I Love the Way You Lie, like an Eminem tune or something like that. Like it was very all rappy rap. And Mike was very, very good at that. And I recognized how his flow was really good. Like it wasn't, like I told you before, if you do it right, it's good, And then the singer was the refrain. So I was like, okay. For me, I was like, I don't care. Sounds good to me. I'll sing those choruses. They sound great, or those parts sound interesting to me. And they had incorporated some stuff, but it wasn't your cookie cutter, silly stuff that we kind of walked away from. It had gotten drawn through different genres of music, and there's more pop elements to it, but not poppy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, clearly, you know what I mean. And so I was excited. I was very excited. And that's where that's at. And so nothing happened for a little while. So that's how the first introduction happened. And then I want to say over the next couple of days, I got a phone call, and it was from Jeff Blue. And I have to tell you, as a kid, well, I wasn't a kid, but a guy from, in his 20s from Connecticut, to get a call from an A&R guy in California saying all these crazy things. It's real, but it's not real at the same time. You're like,
mm-hmm.
I mean, imagine that, right? Imagine someone called you up today and said, your wildest dream is happening, and you can't really, it's still just a normal phone call. So you don't have the wherewithal to kind of really freeze your mind and say, wait a second. Even though Aaron had primed me for all this, you don't realize there's like you have to take a beat and really understand that that's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a little bit of distrust too. Not distrust on Aaron's part, but like, I don't know this person on the other end of the phone. So he says, we're the next big thing. He was very, very solid about the band. He's like, these guys are super talented. This is the way it's going to happen. So we started talking. He's like, I'll tell you what, I'm going to say, he's like, here's my FedEx number. I want you to send me some of your material. And I'm kind of jumping ahead, but I wanted to get to, I sent him one of my demos that I had just finished, and I was working on that. Yes, I sent him something initially. Mm-hmm. And the first thing he said, he's like, are you a good singer? Because they were specifically looking for that refrain. I said, I think so. At that point in my career, I was probably at, the highest I've reached as far as, gigging nonstop, strength, just being able to do it all the time. And so he says, can you do this? And I said, sure. So I sent him a tape, and he immediately calls me the next morning. And that should have rang a bell with me, but once again, think about it. You're just this person at the end point on a phone going, okay, who's, you know what I mean? It's still just an opportunity. So,
yeah.
So I'm kind of taking it with a grain of salt, because I've heard so many, because I had a guy who became, ended up in Weezer, because I had another guy who was going over here doing this, and Stain had just gotten signed. I'm like, this can't be possible for me. I'm just thinking that this is like, you know what I mean? Just like an opportunity, but who knows, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know what I was thinking, to be honest with you. But so he goes, I liked your tape a lot. I need you to record a videotape of yourself, and just kind of like what you would wear standard. We want to know what you look like, because obviously as they were gonna start auditioning people, I think that they were like looking for a specific image, right? Mm-hmm. Fine. So I did. That was fine. Another FedEx envelope comes, and that's when all the lyrics came. Demo tape comes, and get to work on cutting your tracks to it. So
basically, you were in contact with Jeff Blue like a lot.
Over the course of a couple days, I would say we had three phone calls before the fateful phone call where I kind of I flaked out. I totally flaked. So I started cutting tracks to it, and I still have those somewhere as well. And the tracks that they sent me, to me, I just couldn't feel those. I couldn't feel those choruses for me personally. Like if they had sent Points of Authority, like some of the stuff they had done with Don Gilmore, the producer there, from Hybrid Theory, that was right up my alley. These were a little bit different at the time, right? So it was a little bit weird of a shift of gears for me. But it was fine. I was doing it, and it sounded good, but I had reservations. So we started talking. So I sent those in. And
did you get to record vocals for any of the tracks?
Oh yeah, I recorded them on 4-track at my house. Yeah, I did. So I sent one of those in, and he calls me back, and he's like, "Okay, so how can you get here?" And I'm like, "A short-term flight to LA is like, I mean, I think it was still $1,000 back then." And I have to be honest with you, and not to sound crazy, but I was like, if you're the next big thing, and you're an A&R guy for this, that, or the other for Zomba, I think it was at the time Warner Brothers. I was like, can you get me a plane ticket? Well, I don't know, this, that, and the other. So he had me talk to Mike for a little bit about the music, about the tunes, and Mike was saying, yeah, we got a $10,000 advance. We bought some equipment, and money's a little bit tight. So the first iterations, as he'll tell in his book, or I've seen online, people didn't snap them up right off the bat, mm-hmm. But they did get that advance from the label, I'm sure, because Jeff really pushed for them, because he really believed in them. And and again, just based on Aaron's recommendation and some of the stuff I had sent him, the guy's like still talking to me. So we finally negotiated that he would buy a plane ticket for me to go out there. And the next words out of his mouth, he's like, well, do you have some place you could stay while you're out here? And I went, and I was crushed. I was like, what? I don't know what, like, I'm 25 years old or whatever I was. I just thought of myself flying on this plane, going to God knows where. I don't know this person. I'm still having reservations. And there was just a little bit of doubt there. And it wasn't about the music. I was locked in at that point. And when he said, I would just figure, hey, maybe just a motel. Like, it's either going to work or it's not. We're going to have a couple rehearsal sessions, one rehearsal session or two rehearsal sessions. It's either going to, anybody who's playing the band will know if there's chemistry or not. And then, you're out the door. And probably to most of the people watching this and listening, they're probably happy that it didn't happen. Yeah, you don't know. But I will say this. When you do meet with the right people, and I've had this happen to myself, you level up with them, right? Mm-hmm. If you're of the open mind and you have the ability to, if you have that right mixture of people, it brings you up with them if you have that skill set, because they lock in, you go, oh my God, I can feel that. And then all of a sudden your gears start cranking faster than they were before, or faster than they've ever done before. So I wonder, if I had ever gotten the opportunity to jam in those initial sessions. So what ended up happening was Jeff called back and he's like, hey, where's the rest of the songs? I was like, yeah, I'm gonna send those out, next day or so. And then he called up one more time and I said, yeah, they're on their way. And then I just let the phone ring for the next couple of days, because I just didn't think the way he was communicating at that point, he might have been busy or preoccupied, but it didn't seem like, again, it was very early on and it seemed so rushed and so like an infomercial. You know what I mean? Like, and probably just because he was busy, he's got 5 different plates going on. But to a guy in Connecticut that's just looking into a phone, trying to figure out a place to stay, get a hotel, do this, that, or the other, a lot of nerves there. I just said, this probably isn't it. I figured they would, plane ticket and a hotel. You figure if you're paying for a plane ticket, a $30 hotel, and I could have done it myself, looking back on it, it's silly. But something just told me not to. And there's a second part of that. But that came, the phone calls rang for a couple days, and I'll never forget. Rang, and then they just stopped, and life moved on for the next year or so.
So basically, you never sent your takes to them?
I sent one, and then I didn't send my completed versions of what you would call Rhinestone or Place for My Head. Yeah.
So basically, they only got from you Fall Again, the demo you worked?
No, they got that, and then excuse me. Place for My Head is what I recorded. They didn't get Picture Board or Rhinestone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they got. I think that's the one I tracked.
So what was the process of creating the audition song, Fall Again?
Oh, that was just a tune that I had written. I sent that to them and they liked it. They liked it. That was my complete original idea. They liked it, and that's what got me in the door. Oh, Aaron's recommendation, they heard that song, they went, okay, yeah, that's good. That's what we're interested in, that vocal tone. We're interested in that approach.
Did you create that song just for the audition? Because it kind of resembles the Xero sound. So was that intentional, or it was a
No, that was just me. That was just me in Connecticut, man. That's what Andrew, I'm telling you, man. That's what kills me. because I'm telling you, if I had, I think if I had gone out there, listen, first let me set the record straight. In no way, shape, or form do I want this to come off of if then, could then. This is just this is just an interesting story about a guy who made a bad decision that maybe you didn't know about. All due respect to Linkin Park, all due respect to Chester, all due respect to their families, all due respect to everyone out there. I'm not stepping on any of that legacy or saying anything untold about that situation. There's no way I possibly could. But what I will say is, at that point, being that person, I think we were right on the same page. And I think that for better or for worse, we probably would have linked up because to your point, it did sound similar and it did gel. And that's why I think Jeff jumped through more hoops than he probably would have being a VP of A&R, and that he had me talking to Mike about the tunes because it was just interesting. Mike was talking about his guitar rig or something they just bought because they got a $10,000 advance or something towards the record, and they said they had spent all the gear just so they could have good production value for the shows they were playing. And me being me, I'm OCD, right? So not like wash your hands twice. I feel bad for folks that go through that, but I do have a certain level of it. And because I was having those reservations, the real reason I don't think I sent it is because for me, back then, if you were a band that was breaking through, you would have played the Whiskey. You would have played the Rocks. You would have played the Viper Room. You would have done a showcase. You would have done something somewhere at that point. And what I didn't realize, and this is my hypothesis, and I mean no disrespect, they were assembled in the studio. You know what I mean? They took Mike's great ideas, and whoever else, if they were just his, that's fine too. I don't know that part of it. They took his ideas and they put people together, bass players from what I hear, same process, shoot a video yourself, bring them in, and they assembled it a la a pop group in a way, but used that formulaic situation to put together a rock group and to put together like the last big rock group ever. Like, who's bigger than them since then? No one. Guitar rock is gone. Guitar rock is jazz now, which there's nothing wrong with jazz. I'm just saying everything is pushed backwards. You know what I mean? So to me, that was a red flag. Like, no, this is just going to be a thing. And I was nervous, and I was like, they haven't even played here. I didn't see. I downloaded. Internet was whatever, but I downloaded every magazine article I could figure out, and all the I don't think the PRP was running at the time, but I was looking through all the industry magazines, had nothing about any of these folks.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I was like, this is weird. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that they were going to be engineered. And that's not to say that they put words in their mouth or they gave them the music or they did anything like that. I think that they helped them become the best unit they could be. Sorry to ramble, but
No, it's okay. That's fair.
You can edit my run-on sentences.
So Jeff Blue and Zomba, which was they got the record deal from back then, had some interesting instructions for you and certain expectations regarding new band members.
Oh yeah, like I said,
yeah,
it was the and I'll find it. I'll probably end up posting it, parts of it that I'm too embarrassed about. But they asked my height, my weight, eye color, hair color, skin, like tonality, just all your physical attributes.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say all that. Shoot a video of yourself in your favorite clothes, your casual clothes. I just think that they were trying to get a gauge, because if you think about it, they're way over there. They didn't want to probably waste their time. They wanted to see if you would fit into their image. I certainly didn't have this Grizzly Adams beard that I have now, but I was a younger guy, and I think I fit that niche. So there was a video that I sent in, and that passed the muster because the calls and the FedEx envelopes showed up after the video showed up with them.
Your stuff seems a lot more accessible, and that's not to say that it's got less of a drive, but it just seems more accessible and something that I could definitely sink my teeth into. I think what I would like to do at this point is if you think things are good, or you hear something in there that definitely catches your ear, blank tracks that I could actually put myself into so we could hear the relationship between the two. Lyric sheets, melodies that you already have. I have no problems doing that. I am definitely an instrument. If you'd like to hear my interpretation of what you already have, that would be fine. If you wanted to hear my personal rendition of what I think I can do over it, that would be fine also, and I could give you both variations. That's fine. As far as, I don't think I'm painful to look at. I get along pretty well. 6 feet tall, 185. This feels like some freaked out dating service. I don't know what the hell I'm doing here, but it's just rather hard when I'm on the other side of the continent to convey who I am, what I'm about, and that's what I'm trying to do here. My influences are extremely varied. You hear that from everybody, but mine are definitely varied. It goes anywhere from Harry Connick Jr. all the way out to Faith No More, Third Base, Beastie Boys, anything with good groove and melody, and just bottom line is groove. That's what gets me. I'm 27 years old. I'm not some wild kid. Gone through all the phases that I need to have gone through. Right now I'm just looking for a good thing to sink my teeth into. I know I can bring a lot to a project. I have 10 songs right now ready to go on my own thing, primarily a sample based with some keyboard textures, vocals, and a little bit of rapping, whatever. Basically I'm just looking for the shot. I'm looking for the next thing, the next level.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had heard through the grapevine, through maybe someone that I'd spoken to over with you guys, that a bass player had gone through the exact same.
Yeah,
process.
exactly. At the time, they were looking for a bass player too. It was like the core members of the band, and they were looking for a vocalist and the bass player.
Yep.
Do you remember who played bass for them at the time?
I don't. My only contacts with the band at that time, I was talking directly to Jeff, negotiating exactly what was going to happen, and then I think he put Mike on the phone to close the sale. And Mike was really, really cool and really down to earth and nice. Not that Jeff wasn't, but Jeff was just, you could tell that he was business.
Mm-hmm.
I remember saying, hey, we just got back from the Grammys and we're gonna light this place on fire. And I was just like thinking to myself, like from his perspective, he means that. But from my little Connecticut perspective, I'm like, who does this guy think he is? I had no idea that I was actually talking to the guy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You don't possibly think that you're talking to that guy. Because, and I know some might say, well, Aaron Lewis recommended and they met in the studio, but you don't think of all those things when it's like I said, if you could just take a beat and realize what's happening right in front of your hand, things could have been totally different. But it's just so fast. It was mesmerizing. I have to tell you, it was crazy. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that.
And
being that person at that point, it can be so confusing.
Yeah, it was.
You really have no idea what to expect, and especially because you didn't have that much information. The internet wasn't that big. You couldn't get that kind of info you could have gotten today. You could have Googled any band and see what they're doing.
Yeah, everything I knew about how a band got signed and got to where they needed to be didn't add up for them. They didn't. And some might say, I mean, listen, I again, hindsight's 2020. Now I would, you'd mortgage, or you'd sell your car to get that plane ticket. But at the time, it's like I was, you know, a fledgling musician with like a real part-timey job. The band was doing really good. So I had my own gig going on here. And I had a guy who wanted me to go take, you know, I don't know, 1 to 2 weeks off from that to go out to do that. And I just simply couldn't afford a short-term flight. And then he was like, oh, can you find somebody to stay out here? And I just thought that that was a non-committal. Like, it's either going to work or it's not. And then I fly home. Like, it's only going to take a day or 2 days easily. I mean, or maybe 3 days. You fire up the 4-track or the studio, whichever way they would produce it. And you'll know right then and there whether that's that. So I think that is what it was, and then that coupled with the fact that we had our own thing going here, which was tangible. You know, it was right. It was in my hands. We had a show that Saturday, this, that, or the other. It's like that was pie in the sky. So, but yeah, I didn't know who I was speaking to. So. You know, and certainly Mike was really, really cool at the same time. But yeah.
Did he actually give you any feedback on what you sent?
Yeah, he liked it. And I'm not just saying that. That's not, again, that's why I wanted to set the record straight. He totally liked it. He said, yeah, man, that's exactly the tone we're looking for. He's like, I like that, you know, that the grit in your voice. He's like, I've heard, and I sent Sugarmilk demos to him. And I sent some of that stuff. He's like, oh, you got a good scream voice. So he knew what they were going to do. You know what I mean? He had all the pieces. And he's like, yeah, you've got what we're looking for. When can you get out here? That was like literally the conversation. And that might have been a precursor, because I've seen some interviews as of late where he's like, you know, I heard, and I think he did ask me to sing over the phone too. That was really weird. That was another one that put me off. It put me off, honestly, because like, what A&R guy is going to want you to sing over the phone? Everybody sounds like terrible over the phone, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, what excuse me, Jeff, if you ever see this, what professional person's going to ask me to sing over the phone? And like, to what? You know, do you want Mary Had a Little Lamb? Like, I mean, with no accompaniment, you want me to sing a rock tune over the phone? But now he's got, in interviews, he says, oh, I heard Chester over the phone, and I immediately knew. So I'm going to tell you right now, if he immediately knew, he wouldn't be giving $900 to a guy from Connecticut to fly out there. So that's why I say I do think, as to make the story sadder for me, I'm well adjusted with it, but sadder for me, I was the first out of the gate, 100%. Why would you waste your time? If you knew, why would I get it? So
I see. So a couple months ago, it was their first record, Hybrid Theory 20th anniversary.
Before you get to there, I just got to tell you something, real quick story. So about a year and a half later, I'm an electronics technician. I now do advanced support for electronics, and I was delivering a piece of equipment to one of the things we had repaired, and I'm driving home listening to like the local radio station, and like I told you before in the beginning of this conversation, I learned to sing by mimicking and catching vowel sounds and understand. Like, I can see someone's mouth position, if that makes sense. Like, you could turn the picture off, and I like to guess who's talking. Because I can hear their mouth. I know it sounds weird, but that's the way I learned initially how to sing. And I remember driving, and I remember the guy, you know, talking it up, going blah blah blah. This is the next. Oh, and that's the other thing. Xero was the name that didn't show up anywhere on the internet in my other part of the story. None of that, right? Mm-hmm. I'll get to that. So I'm driving in the car, and I'm coming back, and I'm all by myself. And so the guy goes, these guys are amazing. This band out of LA, they're blowing up the charts. It's the most requested song of the week. And it's I think it was One Step Closer or something like that, right? I had no idea what the song was. I had nothing. I'd never heard it. And I'm driving, right? And I'm listening. And I'm like, you know, dun, dun, dun. And when the rapper part comes in, because that was the more accentuated part of the music at that time, mm-hmm. I remember, you ever once get in an accident and you get those adrenaline spikes through your face.
Oh yeah.
I had that visceral reaction, and I went, "Oh my God!" I think I almost got sick to my stomach. And I was driving in the car, and I went, "That's totally them. That's totally that guy, Mike."
So you just knew the moment you heard it?
Hand to God, I'm driving in the car, and I remember racing home to get to my computer, and I'm like looking, and I'm like, "Oh, thank goodness, Linkin Park. That's not them. It's not Xero." So I'm like, "Wait a second." I start looking, and it's not like Wikipedia. There was like these, almost like BBS pages and all this like smatterings, and then it goes Xero to Hybrid Theory to Linkin Park, and I was just like, I remember it felt like I had no bones in my body. I was just gelatinous, and I was just like, oh my God. And I bring my wife in, and she actually started to cry because she was just like, "Oh my God." And I'm like, "That's them, 100%." I'd know Mike, the way he phrased, the way he articulates, all of that. It's just like it was embedded in my mind from a couple of years back from listening to those tapes. I mean, I was tracking them, so I was listening to them over and over. And I was like, that moment unto itself was rough. That was a really like, holy. And that wasn't even before they had the success of In the End, before the thing went triple, whatever, six times platinum. So I just thought I'd tell you that portion of how I figured out that I had blown it. So
that was a pretty interesting story, especially because like you immediately
I
understood who they were.
I absolutely did. I was just like, either he got signed with another band because the band's names don't match up.
Mm-hmm.
They switched the name. I was looking for Xero. That was another reason when I was looking for that stuff on the internet, I had no idea because Xero didn't show up anywhere. Hybrid Theory, I didn't even know to look for Hybrid Theory. So yeah, it was that was a bad situation right there. So I'm sorry. I just wanted to, before we went on to the next section, I thought you'd be interested to figure out when I found out.
Yeah, it was actually pretty interesting. So yeah. What is your impression in the band now? Like,
I mean,
has your view changed?
No, not at all. I mean, they're amazing. I honestly, I wish they had sent me, that tuned up version of In the End, or something that had those soaring choruses, as opposed to, because that's kind of where I was at that point. Mm-hmm. I could have gotten to those other parts, and I do have some versions of that, and it was fun, and it was good. And like I said, they called me back next day from that, they sent me that package from that. But the stuff they did with, I forget the producer, but that stuff is amazing. And for the time and till now, to the Hybrid Theory, Meteora stuff, and even the newer stuff is great. But and I'm not saying I don't like the 3 songs; they were good. But if you listen to, like, I could play like a little bit of one of these. See if you can hear this. This is the first thing I hear when I play this song. See if this is. All right, I don't want to play too much of it, but so they don't get mad at me. But so I hear that, and then I've got this one. So I'll play this one right here. Sorry, it's giving me some trouble. It's a little soft at the beginning, obviously. And this is the one I tracked. I felt this one. So funny story. The whole reason, another reason, because someone's like, hey, why are you doing this now? And you were going to talk about this 20-year thing. We were kind of talking about Linkin Park and where they are. I'd be lying if I said I didn't check in. You know, I always like look in and see what they're doing. It's like kind of like looking at a store that you used to like, you could have like been a part of, you know? So I'm like looking in, and I always check in to see like what they're doing. And I find a MIDI file on YouTube, or some guy it says picture board, the unreleased track or something like that, and it's a MIDI file, right? So I listen to it and I go, wait a second, that's this song. Hold on. So let me just explain something to you. I start reading about this song and the 20 years that people are looking for this song, and this tape is in my closet next to my shirts for 20 years. I had it the whole time. And this is slowed down. This is the original BPM.
Yeah, so crazy when stuff like that surfaced like 20 years ago, and this was literally the holy grail of the Linkin Park fan base.
I was losing my mind. So that's the real reason this whole thing came to pass, for the people that just think that this is some kind of like dash at getting YouTube subscribes. Sure, I would like to have subscribes because I'm doing some things in music and art and stuff like that. Of course. But the real reason was, it's crazy that I'm sitting on this tape and everybody's, what had happened was some people were pinging me from SoundCloud going, because I had put up, I think it was Rhinestone.
Yeah.
Because no one believed it. It was all wow and flutter. I bought a terrible cassette deck because I didn't have one back then. And it sounded terrible. So I took it down, not because of whatever reason. I took it down out of respect because that piece was coming out. And it just sounded terrible. So I ended up sourcing a brand new deck with 3 heads. And this stuff sounds really good here. I have a little studio here. Mm-hmm. And for a cassette, it sounds pretty darn good. But the funny thing is, someone's making a recreation of a MIDI file of something they heard at a show. And I've got it in my closet. Like I literally would be like, oh yeah, I don't want to wreck this. And I'd put it over there. And you know what I mean? I would dance around it. I wouldn't ever want it to get wrecked. But it was just like around. And all these people are like, this, that, and the other. And I couldn't believe it. This is just the craziest end-to-end story. I think. I mean, I don't know. But it's weird. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy for everyone.
I mean, has anybody heard Chester's tape? I mean, or is this the first time anybody's ever heard the singer audition tape?
Yeah, actually, it's not out.
Then I would bet, unless Chester's is with his wife or somebody, this is the only version kicking around. Because when I talked to Mark, he was like, I've never heard of anybody else have one of these.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. I think it was me, and excuse me to cut you off. I think it was me, I Flake, Chester Sings, the rest is history. Pretty much. Maybe there was someone else in there. I don't know. You might know more than I do because I don't know the whole story on the backside. But
yeah, it's the first time we ever see something like this. Like, we assume Chester has his audition tape, but yeah, it's not out. No one has this stuff, these instrumentals, and it's probably also one of the last things they put in tape.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Because I got Pro Tools next year, like the home version of Pro Tools, and I was burning CDs after that. That was it. In fact, I sent them a burnt CD of Fall Again. Yeah.
We don't even have like any instrumentals from that era, like any from the Xero era. I think we only got one, Cole. I don't think we have any other instrumentals. Like,
yeah.
that's the crazy part, that stuff like that surfaced like 20 years later. And like it's crazy for you, it's crazy for the fans, because we couldn't know.
It
And
happened nearly almost to the week too, and I don't mean to cut you off. When I first was approached, and then we all started talking, it it was in deference to the release, right? Because that release was coming out. I was not going to do anything silly, and not even just from even just the, it just wouldn't be appropriate. Like everybody was going to get that from them. Let that sit and breathe, and that's what it is. Then we can have this conversation about that. That's the right way to do it. Because any other thing would seem like you were trying to undermine that. You know, I had no idea. So I just thought it was funny that I'm just sitting on this stuff, and I had no idea that there was that song. And for all I know, on this other Mark tape that I have, there may be something else.
okay, yeah, I'm sure everyone's looking forward to that too.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna do that and find that videotape too. So, but yeah. So as far as the band's concerned, they're transformative. You know what I mean? When you have superstars saying that that hybrid theory would be the one record they take to, I'll never forget that. I think it was like Cameron Diaz or someone like that at the time was like, that's the one record I take to a desert island. That's a pretty good endorsement. You know what I mean? That's a pretty darn good endorsement. They did a really good job with that record and the subsequent records. But I'm just saying, the way they blasted through with that energy, they're the last big rock band. Period. Like no one sold more than them since then. No one has had the exposure and explosive, pop culture movement the way they have. Nothing. They're like the last big rock group, and hopefully it comes spinning back around again.
That's true. Okay, so let's move from Xero, Linkin Park, onto your next project. Was it like No December?
Yeah.
The next band?
Yep. Yeah. So that's getting back to the gentleman that I played in Crumb with, the physicist.
Yeah, you mentioned it before.
Yeah, he comes back and says, I want to play music again. And my other guitarist is a maxillofacialist in his last year at Brown University. So I've got two doctors in the band, and we're like, my drummer, who's my best friend in the world, Matt Raftery, he's just got a crazy pocket. He's great. Andy Casista was playing bass. He's a great guy, teaches bass. He's a great guy. But just having two doctors in the band, it was really weird, because it was like, if you don't make it, you guys are going to be making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, because you're doctors. And you're a PhD. I mean, this guy is like, he's just at the craziest stuff in the world. I don't want to tell his business, but yeah, he works on some crazy, amazing stuff. And Zach does some amazing reconstructive surgeries for kids that have cleft palates, and he's a really good man, and a great guy and a great physician. So I'm in that band with them, and I think I like the music, I like the tunes, but I think it was a little we were kind of like on our last legs. They had a great run as a band with an alternate singer. I came in at the end of it, and it was good music, but I think we were kind of almost going through the motions near the end there. They were getting out of school. Everybody was in a state of flux. Good tunes, but fun stuff. But I think that it was right near the cusp of where they're like, I think I'm going to be a doctor now. You know what I mean? That's kind of why I went to MIT, and Brown, so.
You did put out an EP with them, though, called
Yes,
Mobius.
I did. I'm sorry? Yeah, Mobius.
Mobius.
Yeah.
And in the band's biography in Discord, it also mentions you got some airplay. Was there any songs with your vocals on the radio back then?
Oh yeah. The Another Day was in rotation on what's the old station in Boston? BCN, I think it was. BCN, I think was. I mean, it's not in like 9 to 5 rotation, drive time. It was like later in the evening, but it was still in rotation. They were good to local bands, and it helped us, for our gigs. And we played a lot of played the Palladium up there, Middle East. So we got to do the New York circuit with Crumb and Sugarmilk, and then we got to do the Boston circuit. We played with Jesse Leach from Killswitch Engage. He was in a band called Seamless at the time, and great, amazing singer. And so we were just surrounded by great artists and acts, so it was definitely a great time.
After No December, any other bands you worked with or any recent projects?
No, I've written some. I've recently just started writing some tunes because I've had like a nostalgic kind of vibe about nothing surrounding this. This was the kind of like a side step to that. Actually, I've been trying to write some like kind of like pop tunes, not really like pop tunes, but like maybe like glow synth songs. I'm kind of like, I like those like the themes, like John Carpenter themes from like the Halloween. So if you could picture that go into like a good beat and melodic overtones to that, kind of that type of thing. I know the retro thing's getting played out, but that's what I'm doing.
Sounds interesting though.
It's fun. It's definitely kind of fun. And some of my old tunes, if you listen to them, like Calm on my SoundCloud and 4 a.m. on my SoundCloud, they had those elements in there, but it was probably just I didn't have the wherewithal to push it all the way to retro, so the lever's halfway. It's just like kind of synthy, and those guys fought me tooth and nail about putting synth in rock music. I was like, come on, man, synths add a lot to it. So I really dig synths a lot. So I grew up on that kind of music. So, but so I moved from that, and then now I work with. I do like digital art. I'm a photographer. I'm a videographer. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like what gets me going. Music will always be there. I'll always sing. I'll always do that. But I got a cool photo published I can show you semi-recently.
So how did you start this line of work? Like you said, videographer, digital art?
The way I started it is everything's expression, right? Mm-hmm. So music's expression, art's expression. I'll explain if you can see these two pictures. This painting right here, I didn't paint this. This is, well, I did, but the background here, if you can see my cursor, mm-hmm. This is a painting I bought at a yard sale, and then I brought this into Photoshop and drew this on my tablet to kind of put this is an oil painting here, and then this is my digital artwork here. And it's a kind of a metaphor that we might be hybrids, and that this is the last chain of the missing link. If you look up Darwin's evolutionary steps, this is the last hominid on that step, and that the aliens are a chain. See that little metaphor there. So I have and I've sold several of those prints. I sold those in like 24 by 36, and I have a couple more. It's really kind of like an emulated, if you're into Banksy or into Dolk or any of those type of artists, it's kind of like that, but more not street art, Mm-hmm. And then I got into photography, and this looks like it's fake because I toned it. I put some colors on it to give it a good look. I could send you the original. This is
that's a picture?
That's an actual picture of a tornado going through my backyard. Going through my backyard. This is the hail core. And then this right here is hail raining down. And then there was a tornado that tore through here. And people think that it's superimposed because there's like this little line here. It's just because I turned the clarity up in Lightroom for those that use it. When I took the photo, Andrew, it looked like a white mass because it had blown out all the highlights. And when I brought the highlights down in Photoshop, this appeared to me. I had no idea why the cars were coming up. They're vroom vroom. They're leaving because there was a crazy tornado warning, and I don't know what's going on. I blow the Linkin Park deal. I don't know a tornado's headed our way. This is only 4 streets down, 5 streets down into the woods, and there's a tornado came ripping through here and went up through the rest of the town. And that's published in
It's so
not
crazy.
to that's not to brag, but that's published in the craziest New England weather or something like that, because yeah, I've never seen I was that close to the tornado. So that was pretty cool. So I do that, and then I do I'm working on a couple short film ideas, kind of like extended universe stuff of films that I like, just for the heck of it, and just for you.
So you're doing videography. What other current projects you got running?
Like I said, I've written a couple tunes. Most recently, just been stretching out the vocal cords, getting back in shape, so that I could have the versatility. I can always sing like a straight song, but getting back into vocal shape to have a good scream voice, but not like scream voice, just a good grit without hurting your vocal cords takes a little bit to get that strength. So I've been doing that I want to be able to cut some tracks once these tunes are done. So
any plans on releasing any of
that? Yeah. I'll put it on SoundCloud, and I would love to get some feedback on it, and love for people to hear it and enjoy it and whatever. And I really, it's just been a pleasure to kind of share this finally, because I've walked around with this for 20 years, and I tell people who don't, they probably don't believe me. Let's be honest, and I'm not the guy at the bar, like, I don't drink. I really don't, whatever. I mean, I'll have a drink here and there, but I'm not like wasted at the bar going, yeah, Linkin Park could have been in Linkin Park. I'm not that guy at all.
So people still come up to you and ask you?
Absolutely. In my town, people that know me, yeah. In my town, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, yes, now it is, right? And again, here's what I always say. I could have went out there. I could have got that Motel 6 pass or whatever I would have done. Could have sang 3 notes and I said, get out of here, guy. Right? Very well could have happened. I'm not a superhuman. You know what I mean? Chester's a 1 in a million. He did amazing work, and it's like lightning in a bottle. Amazing. So that certainly could have happened. And I'm for the sake of this, for the sake of this whole situation, I'm glad that whole situation went that way. It's just the what if is nuts. It's like the biggest what if ever for me. It's crazy. It's a crazy situation. And it wasn't just a band. It was the last big rock band ever. So, sit with that. So, congratulations to them for sure. Respect to them for sure. But it's a funny situation. And then to hear that I've got their song after.
How is it sharing this story, like getting it off your chest, like so many years afterwards?
To see the smile on your face and to see the response on certain people that really appreciate the music and hopefully appreciate the story for what it is, it's good. It totally is good. And I appreciate you taking the time. I know, it's good. It's good. And I hope it gives some people a smile or just a different. You didn't even know that happened. You know what I mean? Did.
Just the story itself.
It was like this, and that, again, that's not saying, if I had gone out there, blah blah. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there was a variable, a permutation that was not exercised at that time. So it's interesting.
Okay. So I think we've covered pretty much anything. Anything else you'd like to add for closing? Any thoughts? Any final thoughts?
I would just like to say thank you to the community, the Linkin Park fans, everybody who's been cool to me on the Linkin Park Live. I only joined to kind of share and tease that out. I want to do everything to make you guys happy with that, tell this story, and share that. And obviously, I'm no hidden agendas here. Like, check my YouTube and all my social media is searchable by TJ Demonte. Hopefully that stuff comes up pretty soon. Hopefully COVID goes good for everybody. Happy New Year to everybody. I hope everybody's safe and stays safe, and that the vaccines work for everybody around the world, and we get into a better space for 2021. And that's really the main objective. This is fun, but that's the real goal. And and then hopefully we get some new tunes in the new year from everybody. So
thanks a lot for your time. I really had lots of fun doing this, and it was very interesting.
Thank you. You're very gracious, and I appreciate everybody at Linkin Park Live for taking the time to do this with me, and I look forward to see what you guys do with it. So I really appreciate it.